when I found BuddyBoss, I thought this is an incredible vision and incredible platform. But ultimately, what sold me on BuddyBoss was Michael and Tom. I thought, this is not just an investment in a software. This is an investment in leaders who I really respect.
Hello and welcome to the BuddyBoss podcast, where we dive deep into the strategies that will help you build, launch and grow your online communities, courses and memberships. I'm your host, Jason Broderick, marketing manager and head of content here at BuddyBoss. If it's your first time here or you just haven't gotten around to it yet, click the subscribe button below this video and then click that bell icon to make sure you keep up to date with all of our latest content here at BuddyBoss. In today's episode, I'm joined by First Amendment and human rights educator, Reverend Dr. Nate Walker from ReligionAndPublicLifeorg, the social learning community and mobile app providing civic education for the common good. Nate tells us how he's rallied a network of philanthropists to invest in the technology that facilitates the teaching of religious literacy in response to the increase in interfaith hostility in society. In this episode, we discuss how Nate has overcome 3 learning difficulties to focus the last 8 years of his life exploring the ways that e-learning tools can address inequities in the usual classroom environment, how the pandemic helped make fundraising one of the easiest parts of his journey, and how it allowed him to tap into everything that gives him a sense of purpose, how a WordPress multi-site and the BuddyBoss Agency helped to solve the challenges of putting the puzzle pieces together to onboard 150 content creators across 49 different organizations, and how they're leveraging the power of the BuddyBoss app to offer an evergreen community for each of their partners to host their own in-person events and conferences, and afterwards, connect them to each other in ways never before possible. Let's dive in. Hey, so I'm joined here by Reverend Dr. Nate Walker. Hope I got that one right. Nate, it's really great to have you on. Tell me a little bit about ReligionAndPublicLifeorg. Tell me, who does it serve and what does it do for them?
Hey, sure. And for those who know me, they often call me the irreverent Nate Walker. So if I curse too much in this interview, just bleep it out.
Well, I'm Irish, so I'm glad you said that. Now we've got the freedom from both sides. Great.
That's right. ReligionAndPublicLife.org is a social learning community. We serve learners, educators, and professionals, and our ultimate goal is to promote civic education about religion and public life. So, for instance, religion and law, religion and politics, religion and arts, religion and education, and so on. So we're really doing civic education or religious literacy. And we're doing this because, as you know, there's an incredible increase in social hostilities and violence and religious-based bullying, religious-based hostilities, and all kinds of real problems in our society. So we're trying to promote religious literacy as a civic competency for people of all religions and none.
So do you have, I guess, before I kind of dive into those deeper questions, which we will no doubt get into later on, tell me, how long has ReligionAndPublicLife.org been around? Is it recently, is it fairly new, or, how long have you been sort of involved with it, or how long has it existed?
Yeah, so when the pandemic started, I remember the day was March 15th of 2020. It was my brother's 40th birthday. And I missed it, obviously, because the world was in lockdown at that point. And I called my mentor and colleague, Bruce McGever. He runs the Foundation for Religious Literacy. And I said, hey, I have this URL that I bought like 15 years ago called ReligionAndPublicLife.org. What should we do with it? And because the whole world was forced online, we thought, we're running, public charities. So how can we rally a network of philanthropists to invest in the technology to help all of our partners do this civic education? So how can we help our social studies teachers, and how can we help them find constitutionally friendly ways to teach about religion so as to prepare that next generation for a diverse workforce and a diverse society and a world community? So we just were pushed online like the rest of the world. And so we're 2 years old now.
So would I be right in saying ReligionAndPublicLife.org is more about, or maybe you might correct me, it sounds to me like it's directed at educating the educators as opposed to educating the individual. Would that be right?
Yeah, so certainly we're serving educators by providing them resources that they can use in the classroom that's constitutionally friendly and grounded
Mm-hmm.
in academic research. But also we support professionals, so we do support for leaders in the community, like business leaders or interfaith leaders or school leaders. But we also do direct education with learners. So we have high school students on the platform, and we have college students who are earning academic credit from our various partner schools, or earning a professional certificate if they're adult learners and are seeking to enrich their profession.
What was the biggest daily struggle that you were facing as it relates to, the types of education that you're doing now? Tell me before the pandemic hit, kind of talk to me a little bit about life was like before religionandpubliclife.org.
Sure. So I'm a First Amendment and human rights educator, and I've spent the last 8 years doing online education and trying to cultivate these programs. And a lot of the struggle I saw in the e-learning field before the pandemic was kind of convincing people that they could learn online and letting them know that they can, and they can do so effectively. I have 3 learning disabilities, so I care very much about how people learn and what are the modalities by which they learn. What are the ways that e-learning tools can help address inequities in the normal classroom and create a new normal with augmented type of learning. And so I noticed before the pandemic, there was a kind of thing, a resistance of like, oh yeah, that's what kids do because they're good at tech. Like I asked my grandkid to, you know, put that on
Yeah,
my
to use
phone or
my
something.
iPad or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. But now it was just a necessity of every generation just to stay connected with their loved ones to be online. And so now there's this huge tech literacy that we used to find as like the big hurdle, now to not be a hurdle at all.
So you were facing, or rather you'd begun to see this sort of shift. The pandemic hit, and you had this domain name which you've
Yeah,
been sitting on for quite a while. I love that, by the way. That is like, if I could, I've got a domain name graveyard that I've been like gathering for
exactly.
so long, for like ideas that I were like, that idea is genius. I'll
Yeah,
buy that domain, and then I've sat on it for 10 years. I'll still keep paying the whatever it is,
yeah,
$2 a year renewal
that's
fees
right.
or
That's
whatever.
right.
So pandemic hits,
Yeah,
you called up your colleague and you decided you wanted to, turn this thing into a reality.
yeah.
Tell me, what was the first thing, or what was the sort of the biggest struggle that you faced when you initially began to turn that idea into reality?
Yeah. Interestingly enough, the easiest part was fundraising, in part because of the urgency of the time. And it was easy to make the case to different philanthropic agencies or philanthropists as individuals to say, help our partners get online, that we're all hands are on deck. And so that was really, really thrilling to see our broader community of civic educators about religion to um, kind of rally a kind of collegial network toward a common purpose. Um, and so, interestingly, the hardest part was just putting the puzzle piece together on the tech side. Like, which plugin is compatible with this plugin, and what do we have to do? And ultimately, we end up building a multi-site where when you log into religionandpubliclife.org, we're using that parent site as kind of our front end marketing. And then the learn subdomain is really where the community gathers to learn. That's our LMS, our learn dash. And then we decided we really want to have the bookstore be its own component. So all of the WooCommerce stuff doesn't like clog up the space and kind of lock things down with the other subdomains. So then we created a third domain where we integrated Freshdesk and other tools to have our own support desk. So between the support desk, the bookstore, and the Learn community, we kind of realized that we had a lot of work to do on the back end to make it all sync. So thankfully, because of BuddyBoss Agency, they did a masterful job of helping us navigate all those very detailed questions about plugin compatibility and building a multi-site. and we hired Obtain Infotech, this incredible agency, to be our own back end developer, with BuddyBoss Agency being our larger support. And so between those teams, we really had the ideal kind of setup to address those big hurdles of like, how do you put all the tech puzzle piece together?
Would you describe yourself as fairly technical, or is your partner fairly technical, or on day one, how did you arrive at the decision that like WordPress was going to be it? Where did that kind of come from?
Yeah, I kind of put this whole thing under the category of everything I never learned in seminary. Like I've always sort of built websites as a necessity to help certain things. I mean, I remember being a ministerial intern, and it was this huge snowstorm, so I wanted to do basically a digital worship service on mindfulness and deep listening and loving speech. So I kind of did like an audio worship. So I remember in certain times in my life, I was kind of forced online and needed to be. And I remember I served a congregation once where I built a Ning community. Remember Ning?
Yeah.
That it was great at the technology at first to kind of build a community. I was really trying to reach people who are homebound. In the past, I helped NYU build their virtual college back in 1999 when we had dial-up, and my office was a computer cart in a hallway. And
I won't let you guess what age I was in that year.
You were just being born. Yeah, no, it was wild dial-up, and I remember my first employee. She pulled up her mouse on the computer, and she used it as like a remote. And she was like, "How do I turn this computer on?" I mean, it was at that level of tech literacy. So, tech has always just been a necessity for something else, about mission or connecting people. And so, no, I learned to build this site because it was a necessity.
Just because there was no other option. That's very.
Yep.
I see a lot of that in. I guess I see a lot of myself in that story too. I describe myself as just knowing enough code to make me dangerous.
Yeah.
Tell me then, did you already know about BuddyBoss? Was it already on your radar when you got started? Had you already used BuddyBoss before? Or did you discover it as part of the sort of inception of ReligionAndPublicLife.org?
Yeah, I discovered it. Basically, I interviewed, it must have been 20 or so agencies, and worked with some consultants to help me think through some big questions. And ultimately, I landed on WordPress as a way to build a nimble technological infrastructure, so that as one technology develops, we can add it in, and others fade away, we can take them out, and kind of build an ecosystem of technology rather than rely solely on a single product to make the whole thing go. And that's kind of basically what I learned from Ning and other kind of platforms like that, where I was limited by that one technology. So when I found BuddyBoss, I thought, this is an incredible vision and incredible platform. But ultimately, what sold me on BuddyBoss was Michael and Tom. I mean, when I was seeing the videos that they were producing, reading about their own interviews online, learning about their philosophy, seeing how transparent they were, how relational they were in their leadership style, I thought, this is not just an investment in a software. This is an investment in leaders who I really respect. And so we were, full on like stalking you all, of deep dives into like everything, they ever said or written online and stuff like that. And that is what ultimately said, yes, this is the right partner. And I'm so proud of you all for what you've accomplished. Not only
Thanks, man.
Before the pandemic, but during the pandemic. You guys have been full on, at all cylinders running. Like, it is amazing what's happened in the last 2 years.
Yeah. That's awesome to hear. Like, firstly, thank you so much. Like, yeah, on behalf of me. But you know, I feel the exact same about Tom and Mike. And I know, like, people are watching this are probably thinking, yeah, of course he does, employee, whatever.
Right.
But like, I was a consultant for a very long time and was perfectly happy where I was. And, you know, was working from home already before the pandemic even hit, and, you know, was making decent money before the pandemic hit. And then I discovered BuddyBoss for my own project. And, you know, I run one of the largest BuddyBoss sites that we're aware of. And then one day, Tom, or, you know, it was actually Graham, reached out to me, but, you know, said,
too,
listen, Graham's amazing. Graham said, listen, you know, is there any chance you might consider coming and working for BuddyBoss?
That's amazing.
And I kind of said, I mean, I've never worked for anyone else ever before. I've never been an employee ever. But if there's ever going to be a company that I say yes to, it's BuddyBoss. And really, you know, like you said, what sold it for me was I didn't know anything about what was going on the inside. I didn't know anything about what projects were undergoing. I didn't know anything about the stuff that was coming down the pipeline.
Yeah.
The app launch was in full swing.
Yeah.
And I just knew I don't really care. I just want to be a part of these guys' vision. You know, I just want to, if I can be a little tiny part of seeing Tom and Mike's vision move forward, that will probably be the most exciting thing I ever do for a very long time.
They're leading a movement. You know, it really is a different way of thinking of technology and how to help all boats rise and to leverage one another's assets. It's taking the best of kind of the open source philosophy and then building out a way for each content creator to create a unique thing that you wouldn't even recognize across platforms in some ways. So it's very impressive what you all done. Congratulations.
What's been the biggest the biggest highlight or the biggest benefit to you personally of creating ReligionAndPublicLife.org?
Yeah, I mean, on the personal front, you know, I saw a lot of people weather the pandemic, and it's still going on, of course, in different ways. And I think the isolation led to a lot of despair for a lot of people. I think it led a lot of questions about purpose and about sort of who are they, and outside of, you know, their identities before the pandemic. For me, this has been an incredible way to tap into everything I've loved and give me purpose. You know, basically, scientists who study well-being look at sort of this idea of flow when you're involved in a single activity for a long period of time, and it's challenging, and you look up at the clock and you realize, oh, 3 hours just went by. And that's what ReligionAndPublicLife.org has provided me. It's a way to take all my nerdy interests in First Amendment law and tech and e-learning and learning disabilities and religious literacy and community building and give me a project to tap into all my nerdy loves and focus my attention and give me a sense of purpose. So in that way, I've found that in the last 2 years, I've been internally flourishing as well as professionally.
What's been the biggest benefit that you've seen to your community of finding BuddyBoss or choosing BuddyBoss as the platform on which you deliver what you just spoke about?
You know, as a network of philanthropists, by investing in the technology, we were able to onboard 150 content creators across 49 organizations, from Rutgers University to the Smithsonian to Emory University to the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding, all different types of really incredible groups like Interfaith America and so on. And because they didn't have to do this on their own, we became their educational publishers. And they've really benefited from having that support to collectively promote the public understanding of religion. But also, we've been a job creator. So all of our partners get 80% of the proceeds that come through the bookstore. So as they create a course, they create a course packet, as they create a podcast series, as they create event tickets for the webinars, for their on-site conferences that have our that use the BuddyBoss app. All of that is a way to generate income for our nonprofit partners. So in that way, it's really helped the entire field kind of find a common purpose together.
I love the sort of the intersectionality of like bringing all of these different people together and eliminating the one big hurdle that they probably all were facing disparately, which is the sort of the technology, the platform, the systems, and allowing them to probably give them a place to put their content, let's say, in the kind of most basic sense. But also I imagine that also then gives them a network for them to publish and promote, to increase their impact, I guess, exactly, as well as their input as well as their output. That's awesome. So tell me then, what's the next big thing that you want to build or create within ReligionAndPublicLife.org? What's the next challenge that you're tackling?
Yeah, so in the first year, we really focused on tech. We just want it to be a secure, safe space. And then in the second year, we've really worked on content creation and just creating as many courses and events as possible. So we now have 80 courses and 40 certificate programs, and we worked with Credly and to do the badging system and all of these stuff. We worked with Topia to integrate the cartoon effect. Topia is a spatial game where you're turned into a little cartoon and you move around as animated characters. So that's now integrated. So our next step on the tech side is to integrate the BuddyBoss technology for the profiles with that, so that it's immediate login. Our big step in the next 2 years is distribution. It's about marketing and scaling. So this summer, because of some events, we have 700 new members joining, and then because of our partner schools courses this fall for earning academic credit, we have another 200 students joining this fall. So we're just going to keep building the community and its numbers, but ensuring high quality content as well as a secure site. But the big kind of idea is now to leverage the potential of the app. So of our 49 partner organizations, over half of them have some kind of annual meeting where they gather 200 to 500 people at a given time in some hotel somewhere. They have been investing in technology for a one-off app, and then they buy that for that weekend. The users use it on their phones for 3 days, and then they delete it. So we've introduced this idea of Evergreen Community, and this is all made possible because of the BuddyBoss technology. So basically, we're finding space for the app of ReligionAndPublicLife.org to serve as their conference app. And for that weekend, we then register people through the e-ticketing system, through WooCommerce, and we connect them to a BuddyBoss group, which we call clubs. And once they're in a club, we maintain that community over time. So they don't just stop being in relationship with each other when they saw each other in person those 3 days. They actually maintain their connections all year round.
I love that. That's amazing. So let me wrap my head around the steps of that. So let's say I am an educator, or I am an organization, and I'm a ReligionAndPublicLife.org member already. Mm-hmm. My event that I'm having with my own customers or clients or users, mm-hmm. I would sort of almost get like a micro app for me. Just for those few days or whatever, have everyone come through the ecosystem. But then because they're inside the ecosystem, you can also maintain that community or offer the ongoing community, membership features, I guess, to that individual too. Is that, do I have that right?
Yeah, that's exactly
awesome.
right.
That's amazing. I
And
need to
that
download your app and like have a play around with it. It sounds amazing.
it's an exciting opportunity really for the partners to be able to kind of draw from the technology. And then religionandpubliclife.org becomes that clearinghouse for people across the fields, across the organizations. So our Jewish colleagues and our Muslim colleagues and our atheist colleagues and our Christian colleagues and our Hindu colleagues, like whatever things that they're doing in their various research organizations, the social studies teachers and the legal educators and the business leaders, what they're doing in their, DEI work, or whether they're doing that in the history classroom in high schools, or so all of those groups then benefit from the BuddyBoss technology, but they don't really even know that, right? They just think like, oh, we're producing our event. And when I log in for those 3 days, I see on the app that those BuddyBoss app pages that we customize for those 3 days are really catered to them. And then that next event, that next weekend, there's something else and something else. So it's just a way to help them feel like it is their community, and then we're there to serve them in promoting their content.
Amazing. And after these, events, do you do the sort of the delegates, let's say, or whatever kind of attendees they are, is there a way that they can kind of cross-pollinate between the organizations? Let's say if like organization A and B had separate events, those delegates A and delegates B, is there an opportunity to like cross promote between organizations? Or in my head, I'm thinking, wouldn't it be great if the Christian delegates from one event and the Hindu delegates from another event could sort of commune? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And so with the BuddyBoss groups, we created a series of clubs to gather people by interest group. So people who are interested in religion and history, or religion and arts, or religion and law, they can all gather according to the subject matter, or the interfaith engagement group, or the secular coalition. They can all kind of gather in their various groups, and that might that would cross-pollinate across organizations. We also make clear to all of our partners that we're a publishing clearinghouse, and so the community is really designed to be a place similar to Amazon or other kind of publishing settings, for each individual to have their own editorial autonomy, right? They have the last say on what is in their course and in their course packet and in their blog and so on. But they don't necessarily affiliate with each other because they're on the site. I mean, there's an incredible amount of tension across religions and non-religious groups on these various topics. So there's an incredible amount of political landmines that we're negotiating. So what we're saying is that everybody has the autonomy to speak for themselves. By being in the community, no one associates with each other unless they explicitly want to create some kind of partnership, like you alluded to, where they want to work on a program together or a publication, or they want to refer to each other's courses in each other's lesson plans. So we're excited about the potential for collaboration across groups, but we don't require it, and we really want everyone to take that self-differentiated approach to this work.
Do you see any of the negative sides of that on your community? Do you see any of those tensions surface, particularly within the sort of communal areas, I guess? Do you see that? And secondly, how do you manage that? If so, do you have moderators? Tell me a little bit about how that looks.
Yeah, this is one of the great tech tools that BuddyBoss offers, which is the moderation option. So we basically did, you have to forgive me. My doctorate's in First Amendment law, which is in both freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and petition. So on the freedom of speech side, I care very much about how speech is regulated, and I'm very concerned about government overreach and sort of creating hostile communities or suppressing speech. And at the same time, we have to create a safe community. Now, I understand that no public space is fully safe. And this is that public forum. At the same time, we're not going to tolerate harassment, or disinformation, and we're not going to, or civic interference of elections or anything like that. It's a big topic in the U.S. right now. So for us, we basically did a feasibility study of all of the moderation tools used by 12 different social networks, from the big ones like Twitter and Facebook, to things we were learning from you and your other community builders. And we basically came up with a rubric of, I think right now it's 12 moderation categories where any member of the community can flag content based on, harassment, or if it's aggressive, or it's misinformation, disinformation, spamming, and so on. And so that has helped us set an ethical standard for how we want to build a community. And we make that very, very explicit in our admissions process. So we're really grateful that BuddyBoss gave us the chance to make it private first and then create an admissions process. That has been our best way to ensure that we're building a high quality community. For instance, there have been a number of applicants to the site who just were engaging in, really clear pornography as a part of their profile, or very clear anti-Muslim sentiments, or very clear sort of like political agendas that were fiercely aggressive and harmful to others. So in the admissions process, we make our standards clear right from the beginning, and then we let them know that they can, try again if they want to apply again, if they were denied. And once they're admitted, because we require everyone to have a full profile, all of our profiles are full and they're authenticated and where they're verified based on their online presence. And that's been a really great process for us to maintain the quality of the community.
Nate, are you ready for a little lightning round? Did you
Sure.
did you see those questions at the
Yeah, I think
end
that's
of the doc you did?
It's a great technique. Yes, let's go.
Yeah, amazing, cool. All right. So Nate, what's the one book that you think all entrepreneurs should read?
The Oxford Handbook on Happiness. It has a great set of articles on evidence-based approaches to human flourishing.
So what's your favorite business motivational or inspirational quote?
Yeah, so a scholar of world religions named Houston Smith, who is since deceased, he said the technical advances of the 21st century must be matched by comparable advances in human relations. And so that has really reminded me of, it's not about the tech, it's about humanity and preserving one another's dignity.
What's the number one place that you go online to learn about building your business?
Gosh, I don't know how to answer that. I feel like I have ADD when it comes to online. I'm like bing, 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 bing everywhere all the time. I guess I tend to go to groups in Facebook to learn about different plugins, to kind of go deeper into them. But honestly, I feel like the thing where I learn the most is like nature documentaries. Like, this sounds ridiculous, but I'm trying to build an ecosystem. And so when I'm watching a film about, how gorillas commune, or like how ants build their, I find myself thinking about how to work the BuddyBoss technology to build community. So I don't know. I think nature documentaries is where I would go.
That's a very unique, but I totally get it. There's a very famous marketer called Ryan Dice. I don't know if you ever heard of him, digitalmarketer.com, and he talks about a book which breaks down the sort of most natural steps of marketing or sort of selling to somebody as it relates to monkeys and the way they create their relationships in the real world.
Yeah.
And so that absolutely makes sense to me. You sort of, in the animal kingdom, you find the purest form of all of the various components of what makes a functioning and healthy and thriving community.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't think that's a silly thing at all to say that you nature documentaries. David Attenborough is,
Exactly.
I love a David Attenborough, just like the next person.
Maybe he can do the sound, entry. Welcome to ReligionAndPublicLife.org.
Welcome to ReligionAndPublicLife.org.
Good impression.
Thanks. I've practiced that a lot, as you can tell. So Nate, if you had to start everything all over again, what's the one thing that you wish you knew before you started ReligionAndPublicLife.org?
I definitely wish I knew about BuddyBoss Agency for sure. Obtain Infotech. Chetan Patel, who runs that company, has been amazing. I think just having a change log. We realized kind of 6 months in that there's so many people working on the site that we need to have our own change log for what each person is doing. So we added that to our support desk to make it explicit, and that's helped a lot with kind of fixing things quickly.
So you mean like when one arm of the organization does something to, enhance their section, the other arms know, I guess the left hand knows what the right hand's doing, right?
Exactly, from both content and tech. So a new course is onboarded, to a new plugin was updated, to this fix was added, or whatever.
Tell me then, for the last lightning round question, how do you define success?
Oh boy, I define success as finding ways to make meaning about the things that of shared concern, rather than feed a culture that is quite demeaning, right? Like there are so many ways in which our politics and our societies kind of reward each other for demeaning each other. And I feel like it's going to be the meaning makers that are going to counter that culture. And that's how I define success.
When you say demeaning, do you mean are you referring to meaningless, or do you mean demeaning as in putting others down?
Both. We can demean each other by ignoring each other, by not seeing, by sort of not acknowledging who's invisible in our society. And also by directly demeaning their worth and engaging in language that is tearing people or communities down. And when it comes to religious literacy, there's an extraordinary amount of social hostilities and violence related to this culture of demeaning each other, starting relationships by an air of suspect and using stereotypes to tear each other down. And what I like about this approach of civic education on this very polemic topic is that it really gathers the meaning makers to make sense of our shared concerns, and to do that de-stereotyping, and to create antibodies in the system that don't reward others for political points or others anyway, a way to demean people, especially the most vulnerable among us.
Wow, that was very insightful. Where can people go to find you online, to find ReligionAndPublicLife.org? I guess that's where it would be.
That's right.
Tell everyone a little bit about where they can go to discover a bit more.
Yeah, ReligionAndPublicLife.org, and as well as on Twitter, we have our ReligionAndPublicLife.org handle there as well.
Nice, amazing. And is that where people can reach you personally yourself, or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, cool.
They can go there and they can use the live chat to start a conversation.
Nice, so. Nice. Well, Reverend Dr. Nate Walker,
yeah,
got that right. It was really great to have you on. Really insightful. Likewise. Thank you so much for giving me your time, and can't wait for everyone to hear this and get to know a little bit more about ReligionAndPublicLife.org.
Thank you, and congratulations on all your hard work. And I wish you and your team just abundant success.
Thanks so much. That was Reverend Dr. Nate Walker sharing with us how ReligionAndPublicLife.org is countering religious hostility by gathering the meaning makers and creating evergreen communities. If you run an online course, community, or membership site powered by BuddyBoss and you'd like to feature in an upcoming podcast episode, head over to buddyboss.com/podcast and fill out the form to get in touch. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to let us know, then make sure to hit that like button below and then leave us a quick comment and tell us what was the most valuable thing that you learned watching this video. That's it for me. Until next time.